So I just saw Free Guy, and it was pretty bad. Free Guy is about an NPC in a video game who falls in love with a real player, so in an attempt to impress her, he decides to become an epic pro gamer, and his autonomy captures the attention of the game designers trying to figure out why he's acting this way. I wanted to avoid this movie ever since I heard of its conception, but I saw it for the same reason I see a lot of movies I don't like, because I love my friends and family, and sometimes their taste does not align with mine. However, my ears did perk up a little bit when I discovered the director of this film was Shawn Levy, who is responsible for such childhood favorites of mine like Night at the Museum and the heavily underrated Criterion-worthy Big Fat Liar. He's not one of my favorite directors by a long shot, and he's definitely made more bad films than good ones, but he is capable of making an enjoyable and revisitable movie.
Sir, I think we just hit a kid.
I'm on the phone.
Unfortunately, this was the exact opposite. I knew what I was getting into since this is a gamer movie. I accepted the fact that there were going to be Fortnite dances and references, but that wasn't the big issue here. The issue is that this is not my kind of humor at all. It felt more like it was desperately trying to make the audience laugh as opposed to coming naturally from the characters and situation. And then it tries to go one step further and attempts to be deep and almost existential, which I would otherwise appreciate. But every idea they tried to tackle just had me thinking to myself, I wish I were watching the Lego Movie. I wish I were watching They Live. I wish I were watching The Matrix. I wish I were watching The Truman Show. I wish I were watching The Secret Life of Walter. I wish I were watching Tron. The themes are spouted so blatantly that there's no nuance or interpretability to it, and I didn't find it funny enough to work on its own as a straightforward comedy, so this movie's rendered completely worthless since I have several other options that are infinitely more funny and interesting. Ryan Reynolds, while he did technically make sense for the role as he is the most artificial and synthetic looking and sounding man in all of Hollywood, is not an actor who I've ever been particularly fond of. He's kind of like Dwayne Johnson in the sense that people like his personality more than his actual skill as an actor. I tend to like them more when they're in animated films, since the animators are the ones who are taking care of their facial expressions. It literally makes their performances that much better since half of the job is being done for them. I wish the scenes that took place within the game were at least motion captured, because when the special effects did come in, it was a lot more distracting due to how inconsistent it was with its own world. And as for the other actors, they tried to establish a romance between Jodie Comer and Joe Keery's characters throughout the film,
But there's zero chemistry between them.
I don't remember one real conversation between those two. Practically everything they talk about is just them explaining what's happening in the plot. And I understand the symbolism behind the relationship of her and Ryan Reynolds, but the man-child with a dopey disposition wanting to get with a more stoic or bad female lead is already a done-to-death trope that doesn't help in a movie this cliche. They even managed to ruin Taika Waititi, who somehow plays a less enjoyable character than when he played Hitler. That's how you know you messed up. The best thing I could say about this movie is that I didn't really find it boring. I enjoyed the action scenes in the moment, but none of them were really memorable. And seeing YouTubers trying to act is always funny. Like, was anyone else's fight or flight response activated when they saw a 20-foot projection of Dan TDM? No? Just me? Okay. But yeah, it's definitely not for me. A lot of people in my audience were clearly enjoying it though. I was about to say if this looks good to you, then you should go see it. But the person I went with to go see it still didn't enjoy it. So I'm not entirely sure who to recommend this to. I guess exclusively people who love Fortnite? Otherwise, it's a hard no for me.